To make this wig, I am going to be using some hair I received from Feshfen Hair Beauty. They did send me 3 bundles of their ombre Brazilian body wave in the inches 18, 20, and 22. I also received a 16-inch closure. This closure did not come pre-plucked or pre-bleached. So when you stitch around this, I love that it has that little outline guideline for you to stitch on. This is going to make sure that you're not creating any tears in your lace closure. You're also going to need a wig head. I have a canvas block head in a 22-inch. Do measure your head. It's very important when making your wigs if you want them to fit properly. I'm also going to use one black dome cap. This is a stretchy dome cap. I'm using some black nylon thread. I prefer nylon thread over the cotton thread. I'm also going to be using several needles. This is going to make the process pass by so fast. Some T-pins to hold down the hair where needed, and some scissors I don't care about, some clips to hold down the hair. Before constructing the wig, I am going to bleach the knots on the closure just so it can look a lot more natural. I am going to be using Wella's Blonde Door Bleach. I'm also going to need a bowl, a brush, something to mix it with, a spray. I am using a 40 volume Wella Colestin developer. I'm going to be using some Silk Elements and some shimmer lights for after I'm done processing the hair, and a brush just to brush down the hair, and I'll show you more of that right now. So just spray down the hair. I am going to be using, I have 2 closures in this video right now just because I'm going to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone and just knocking out another closure for another wig right now. So you're just going to spray down the closure in the front, brush it with the brush just so like none of those hairs are sticking out towards the lace so that none of the bleach gets on those little baby hairs. So just make sure everything is tamed, there's no flyaways so that none of the bleach is touching it. Go ahead and dump your bleach into your bowl. Now this bleach, you do have to be licensed cosmetologist to buy this bleach, but you're welcome to use BW. I just prefer this one because it already has a toner in it, so it's already kind of going to tone down the brassiness, so I don't have to do much work afterwards. So once you go ahead and pour in your bleach into the bowl, you're going to go ahead and mix some of your developer in there. Now you don't want it to be too thick because it won't penetrate through the hair, but then you don't want it to be too watery because you don't want it to go through the lace and bleach the actual roots of the hair. You just want to bleach the knots. Now you might want to use some gloves when doing this. I do this often. I've been a hairstylist for about 9 years now. So my hands are pretty much slave hands and used to touching bleach on a regular basis, so it really doesn't hurt me. But I know at the beginning that shit used to burn so bad. So if you're worried about getting the bleach on you and if you have sensitive hands, definitely go ahead and wear some gloves for protection. So now that I've got it to the consistency I like, and as you can see, it's pretty much staying in the bowl. It's not watery whatsoever. You're going to go ahead and apply lightly on the closure. You don't want to put much pressure just because it will bleed through and you will end up with blonde roots and it won't look cute. You'll have to correct it, and it's just defeating the point of what you're trying to do. Just try to be a little neat and patience. Patience is key when doing this, just because I mean, even after 11 plus years, I mean, I still make mistakes, so just be careful, okay? Now that we've completely covered the entire frontal or closure, we're going to go ahead and leave this to sit for about 20 minutes, depending on the developer you're using. I'm using 40 volume, so I'm going to leave it for no longer than 20 minutes just because after that it's not really processing anymore. Yeah, it's really not going to lift that much more after 20 minutes when using a 40 volume. So just go ahead and leave it for about 20 minutes to 15 minutes. Keep checking on it just because it can lift a little bit sooner depending on the hair you're receiving. Yeah, and then once you're done with that, we'll go ahead and rinse that out. When rinsing out the bleach from the closure, make sure you're using cool water. Do not use hot water. Do whatever it takes to prevent any breakage, and the cool water is definitely going to help. Make sure you're not rubbing on the lace or scratching the lace or doing any of that. You just kind of want to lightly get the bleach out. Use some Silk Elements. This is a neutralizing shampoo. It's just going to go ahead and restore some pH balance to the hair, give some moisture back to the hair, and kind of put back what you took out. So to tone the brassiness of the knots, I like to go in with my purple shampoo. This is gonna kind of like take away some of that brassiness without having to tone it. So leave it in there for about 5 to 10 minutes and then go ahead and rinse it out. This one was not so bad, so I just kind of did a quick rinse. Now this part to me is very important. You see that line right here? That is where the elastic actually is sewn together on the wig cap. Now you want that part to go in the nape of the wig head, just because you don't want to have to cut through that when you cut off the closure. It's not going to allow the wig to have that elastic stretchiness that we like the dome cap to have. Now when placing the closure, you want the closure to align right at the front of the wig cap. You want them to be flush to each other. It's not going to be like when we do the frontals. You don't want it to come forward like the frontal. I always bring the frontal like 1.5 inches or 2 inches forward. But this one's going to be different. So go ahead and T-pin that down. Make sure everything is flat. You don't want any bulges or anything. So your first stitch is going to start right where the wig cap starts. You're going to sew through just the fabric, not the elastic, and then pull through the actual thread in the middle to create a knot. So again, through the fabric, through the lace frontal, pull it out, and then thread that through the center of the middle of the thread to create a knot. If you see my U-part wig video, I explained it in more detail. I'll leave a link up at the top. It's basically the same thing. The only difference is it has a closure, which you would have had your leave out, and I had a little bit less hair in this video, which I am going to show you how to work with a little less hair in the event you didn't receive enough hair and you just don't want to purchase more. What you can do to make sure you're not having any gaps. So just go ahead and sew all the way around. You know, I like that double stitch just because I feel like it looks more uniform, more secure, and I don't know, I'm just used to doing it. I just feel like it's not going anywhere. So go ahead and make sure you're sewing all the way around. If you see me pulling or tugging at the hair, it's only because there's so many little baby hairs on the closure, like around the perimeter of it, that I just keep getting like little baby hairs caught in there. That is the only con about this closure. Other than that, it is just gorgeous. I really love it. So go ahead and continue to sew down, making sure you're not getting any bulges or anything. If you get any bulges, you're gonna need to just stop and like try to fix it and tug at it a little bit to make sure that you're not getting any folds or bulges, because when you try to lay it down or sew it down, you're just gonna have like a little hump at the top and it's just not gonna look cute and you're gonna regret it and it's just gonna bother you, trust me. So when you're reaching the end, you're again gonna just go through the fabric and you are going to go through the closure and again through the center of the thread to create that knot. Now I was getting a little bit like I was running out of thread, so it was kind of hard to do that, but I made it. So now that you've created that knot, go ahead and cut off the needle and you're gonna make 2 more knots. Like if you're, just tying your shoelaces or something, go ahead and create 2 more knots. And this is just gonna make sure it's secure. Now don't worry about the fact that it's in the front right there. You're only making 2 knots. It's not gonna be visible at all. And I am using nylon thread, which it allows it to be a lot flatter and more discreet. So now that we're done, as you can see, the closure is completely sewn down. It is not going anywhere. It's nice and flat. And we're gonna go ahead and get started on our bundles. This is a free part closure, which I really like. Now, as you can see, the scalp looks a little bit dark, but that's because the wig cap is still underneath. We're gonna go ahead and cut the wig cap out later. So I'm starting off with my 22-inch bundle. These bundles are just so soft and just, oh my god, so gorgeous. The packaging is just gorgeous. It says Feshfen Hair with the website. It has that little code that you can scan in the back just to bring up some information about their site. Oh my god, this ombre is everything. Look how bouncy and gorgeous. And yes, honey, those wefts are so nice and neat and clean. Feshfen did their thing with this hair. I am just so excited. So let's go ahead and start sewing this baby in. Now, usually I start off near the ear and bring it all the way around towards the ear again. But for two reasons, I'm not going to do that today. One is because I only received 3 bundles. Now, I usually use 4 bundles, and I just want it to be enough when doing this. It does take up a lot more of the weft. Also, I don't want the hair to fall in front like it usually does. So what I'm going to do is start above where the elastic strap is, and I'm just going to go straight across. Now, I'm still going to have plenty of length in the front. Don't worry about that at all. It's just not going to be as long as it usually is. It's going to create some natural layers, which I really want. So go ahead and use a T-pin, hold that down onto one edge of the cap in the back, like around the nape, but above the elastic strap. And then go ahead and go across the other side. Put a T-pin in, and then we'll get started on the sewing. Now the sewing generally stays the same with me. I just like it to be secure and flat. That's my main goal. Whatever works for you, you like to sew underneath, sew over, whatever works for you. I mean, works for me. It's your hair. But I personally like to start it off with a double knot without going through the elastic. Anytime you are near the elastic, you just want to go through the fabric, because once you go through the elastic, it's not going to stretch as much anymore. And it's just kind of going to be pointless. You'll have to add either some type of elastic inside, and I just don't need to do that. It's a dome cap. Why would I do that? So just go ahead and, like I showed you at the beginning, sewing through the fabric and then through the actual center of the thread to create that knot. You're just going to keep doing this until you reach the other side. It's pretty self-explanatory. Like I said, you guys, if you want to check out more detail as far as how I sew, you can check out my U-part wig. It's exactly the same. I just want to show you guys more detail as far as like placement in this video. That's super important and something that I had a hard time learning when I first started doing weaves. The placement was super important. So do the fold over method. You're gonna sew through the fabric and the not through the weft, but through the underneath the weft, through the fabric, and then through the actual thread again. And then you're gonna do that 2 times. You don't want to do it once because you want a double knot. So make sure you thread through the actual center of the thread twice, if you know what I mean, to create a double knot. So use your thumb, hold it down, and fold the hair over. You do want to go above the weft though. You don't want to place it right on top of the other weft. You want to go a little bit up. This is going to create that elevation, which is going to allow the hair to work its way up to the closure. Go ahead and use a T-pin, hold it down for some support so you're able to use both hands. Turn that baby back around. Of course, you're going to double knot through this first threading, and then do it the same way I've been doing it. Now, when starting off with a new needle, make sure you're double knotting it. Make sure you're pulling it underneath the weft, through the cap, through the thread twice, just so it can create that double knot and it's secure and that thread isn't coming out. Now we finally have reached the end of this first bundle. As you can see, it looks nice and neat and pretty full considering I've only singled these wefts. So now we're going in with a 20-inch. I found this random string in it. I don't know why that was there, but I went ahead and pulled it out. It didn't affect the weft or anything like that. Just thought that was strange and wanted to show you guys. The pattern also and the color also looks so great from bundle to bundle. They match each other perfectly. So starting this bundle off, we're going to place it at the edge of the wig cap. And you're going to go ahead and bring it all the way across and just keep sewing with the fold over method like we did the 22-inch bundle. And as you can see, we've covered a large surface of the hair that was left, or the wig cap that was left. We do have still a large gap to fill in with only one bundle left. So this is what I'm going to show you, is how to go ahead and make that top look full with only one more bundle. Because personally, I would need 2 bundles to fill this in and for it to look nice and full. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to make this work. We're going to start off this bundle just as we started the 20 and the 22-inch, just going ahead and placing it, securing it with a T-pin at the end of the wig cap, and then bringing it all the way across onto the other side to support it so that we're able to have both of our hands when sewing. Now the difference between this one is going to be that the gap is going to be now closed between the last weft and the closure. So I'm bringing that T-pin and I'm placing it in there, and as we turn it onto the other side, you're going to see here that there is no longer a gap. So I'm sewing between, the first little stitch I did went through the cap and the closure, and then I continued just sewing through the cap until I got to the other side using the same exact sewing method I did with the 22 and the 20-inch bundle. So I'm going to show you more in detail once we get to the end. So now that we've reached the end, this is where I'm going to go ahead and curve that over to meet the closure. You're not going to stop and just cut it off and go ahead and like fold over. You're just going to go ahead and bring it towards the front a little bit more, curve that weft and meet that closure. And then I'm going to cut the weft. Now you guys know me, I do not like cutting my wefts, but because I don't have enough hair to complete the wig and I want it to look full and not crazy, and for the simple fact that I want it to look very flat because this color is already really out there, I do not want anybody thinking this is a wig. And sometimes when you when you do the fold over method with the top bundle, it sometimes looks a little bulky. I want this to look as natural and as flat as possible, so I'm going to go ahead and make that decision to cut my wefts. You don't have to, but I personally am going to have to. So this step is going to get a few eyebrows raised just because you're going to be like, girl, why did you do this first? But I personally like to do this first, especially when I don't have any hair left. I mean, I'm running out of hair at this point, so I want to make sure that I have a weft that is going to connect to the closure. I don't want any gap between the closure and the weft. This is the only time I'm going to make the wefts touch each other. Well, it's not exactly the weft touching each other. It's the weft and the closure are going to touch each other. And I just want to make sure that I have enough hair to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and measure that out first, sew that down, and then I'll fill in the gap in the back. You don't have to do this, but when I don't do this and I already know I'm like running short on hair, that's when I tend to not have enough hair to complete the wig and then it looks a little crazy. I'd rather fill up the top and then have like a little bit missing in the middle, just so, I mean, the hair falls back, you're not going to see that gap, versus the top of the crown, you're going to see that more. So go ahead, measure out how long or how much hair you need in order to completely get it all the way around, and then sew the weft into the closure. So you want to sew underneath the weft, or you can sew through the weft if you like to do that. I personally don't. And then sew through the closure and then do that little knot. So you're going to do that all the way around. And as you can see, it's looking pretty seamless right now. You can't even see the wig cap at this point, and that's exactly how I want it. I've been asked in the past, why do I bind the weft with the closure? Like, why do I sew the underneath the weft through the closure to make it as one or seamless? And it's because you're gonna cut the cap underneath the closure, so you want to make sure that the closure is actually connected to the wig. Um, Sometimes just because you sewed the closure onto the wig cap doesn't necessarily mean you're not gonna have any gaps or slippage. This just prevents it, in my opinion. You can do whatever you like, but I'm just showing you how I do it, and I personally like to sew underneath the weft through the closure and knot it, just so I know for sure that closure is secure to the actual wig and isn't going anywhere. Now once you reach the front, of course you're gonna go ahead and double knot it just so it is secure. And you are not done yet, but you are very close to being done at this point. I know right now at certain angles it looks like it's done, but there is such a big gap missing in the back, so we're gonna go ahead and pull up the hair and combine it with the closure, and then just go ahead and fill in that gap all the way to the top until it actually meets the closure. We're gonna just go ahead and pin these down going straight across. I'm no longer going all the way from the front to the back. I'm now just going simply across because I don't have a lot of hair left, as I said before, and you don't really need the hair going towards the front. Not only does that gonna cause too much bulkiness in the front, but it's not necessary because I already have the length at the top from the closure. So just go ahead and continue sewing until you have the last weft. Now as you can see a little bit of the wig cap, but do not worry, when I pull the hair back, you're not gonna see that. And this is a closure, so you're not going to be able to wear your hair up in a high ponytail or anything like that anyways, just because there's no lace to cover like the entire perimeter of the face. It's only like about 4 inches of space, so don't worry about that gap. Now, of course, when finishing off, we're going to go ahead and double knot it to the end just so it's fully secure. Now, I don't think it was that bad. I thought it was going to be left with a larger gap than I was, but I just have this little tiny space that you're never going to notice is there. So, I mean, it came out pretty awesome. I'm really proud of myself. 3 bundles and a closure. Like, you go, girl. I'm extra. Y'all know I am. And I always have to have me 4 to 5 bundles with a closure. So, we're not quite finished. You're going to go ahead and cut off what's left of the wig cap underneath the closure. So, you don't want to cut any of the stitching. So, be careful when doing that. You don't want to take apart the closure from the actual weft or the wig cap. So now you can see your skin underneath it. It looks natural. I am going to add some wig clips. Now you don't have to do this. This is just a must for me just because I like the security that it provides in the nape area. I don't even necessarily need them at the top two because I do got to be glued this down or gel it down, but in the nape is definitely a must. So now that I'm finished constructing the wig, I'm still not done. I am going to go ahead and personalize the hairline to my liking. You can go in with the hairline how it is if that's how you like it, but this one was a little bit more blunt than I like. So I'm going to go in with some tweezers and just kind of thin it out and just clean up that hairline and just not make it look so blunt. Now I'm going to style it. I'm going to be using my Conair wand on 400 degrees and some BioSilk Silk Therapy. This is just going to, you know, protect the heat, protect the hair from the heat and add some shine and some moisture to the hair. So I'm just going to twirl those around the barrel. If you guys want to see how I style this hair, let me know in the comment box below, and I don't have a problem making a video for you guys showing you how I like to curl up my hair, but this video is already long enough. Congratulations if you guys have made it to the end. You are the real MVP. This video was so long. Now this is the final product. I'm gonna go in with a little bit more of that BioSilk and just go over those curls just to tame some of those flyaways and refresh the So that's it, guys, start to finish. I hope this was super helpful for you guys, even if you're not a beginner. If you're like me and you just want to learn some different techniques and different placements, this is, or at least I hope it was helpful to you guys. If you guys are interested in knowing more about this hair from Feshfen, do click on the link right here. I have a full review. Like always, guys, I want to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share this video with somebody who might find it useful. I will see you in my next video. I love you. Bye.